Hey everyone, welcome to another episode of Future Ready Leadership. My guest today, Ty Breland, he is the CHRO and EVP of Global Operations Services at Marriott International. Ty, thank you for joining me.
Thanks for having me, Jacob.
So as I mentioned before I hit the record button, I am one of your, not the top tier members, but I'm one of the gold members, I believe. I stay at Marriott properties a lot. I always love it there. So I'm excited to speak with you.
Well, awesome, and thank you for your business.
So you've been at the company, I looked on LinkedIn, did a little bit of snooping for almost 22 years.
That is correct.
Uh, so you've seen a lot of evolution and transformation on the technology side, on the culture side, on the geopolitical side, when you look at things like the pandemic. Can you walk us through just a little bit of the story of Marriott? How many employees do you have today? What journey has the company been on over the past, 2+ decades since you've been there?
Wonderful. So I'm happy to talk about the 2 decades I've been here, but just sort of a quick on just Marriott. We're getting ready to hit 100 years. So
Wow.
1927, we started as a small root beer stand. From that transformed
Wait, a root beer stand?
a root beer stand. Yeah, an A&W root beer stand that
I
we
didn't
ended
know
up
that's how you
calling
guys started.
Yeah. So we started really small. From there, really got into the F&B business with our hot shop restaurants, got into theme parks and a whole lot of other things over the years. And then in the 50s, really spread our wings into hotels. And so from there, we have grown to, we're approaching 10,000 hotels. We're in 143 countries. Um, and so opening a hotel pretty much every day.
That's crazy.
Yeah. It's been a fun ride. I joined, like I said, a little over 20 years ago. We had right over 2,000 properties, and so just in that 20-year span, we're getting ready to hit 10,000.
And how many employees do you have now?
We have about 800,000 associates that wear our name every day.
Damn,
Yeah, a lot of people.
800,000?
A lot of people.
Woo! So you're probably one of the world's largest organizations. I think the only company that I interviewed a while ago, it was David Novak, the CEO of Yum Brands.
Yeah,
And when he was the CEO, I think he said they had 1.5 million employees. I don't remember how many Walmart and Amazon has, but I think you're right up there with them, if not.
we're right in the ballpark.
Okay, so 800,000 employees. So you're running one of the world's largest organizations, which is crazy. And I can't believe this all started from A&W root beer stand.
Yeah, absolutely.
It's funny. I remember during the pandemic, one of the most, I guess you can say, touching or heartwarming or real moments came from your former CEO, Arnie Sorensen.
That's right.
And I remember at the time he was going through cancer treatment. And during the pandemic, there were a lot of stories and messages that were coming out from various leaders and CEOs, letting go of employees, just, scripted messages that they were giving. And I'll never forget Arnie's message that he gave, which went viral on X and viral everywhere, where you can actually see him getting emotional and like almost crying when he was talking about the sacrifices that they would have to make in terms of people. And it's very, very, very rare where you see a leader, where you see an executive like Arnie, who is going through his own, you know, terrible tragedy and ordeal, take time and deliver that kind of a message. And I think that speaks volume to the kind of company that Marriott is. Can you talk a little bit about just that moment, the pandemic, what was going through that time? I'm assuming you worked very closely with Arnie at the time, so you saw what was going on, and how has that kind of leadership philosophy stayed with the company?
I mean, one we miss Arnie dearly, and I actually remember the moment of that video. And
Yeah,
he was
I think
very.
2021 he passed away, right?
That's correct. Yeah. Um, Doing that video, I think there was a bit of hesitation, uh, and he wanted to be his true self. And I think it meant a lot to our associates. It meant a lot to us that had worked very closely with him. Um, we'll never forget him. But that message does really resonate with so many of us because it's so true to our culture. And Arnie was such an authentic leader. And I think his transparency, his honesty, it really built the trust that we needed with our associates to help navigate through the pandemic. We lost 90% of our business pretty much overnight. And
Wow.
so, it hit a lot of companies, it hit a lot of people. You never model losing 90% of your business in a short period of time. And so we really had to rally together as a team, make some really hard decisions, but, uh, you know, really stay together as a team and really have this concept of that we're all in this together and push through it. And, the rebound happened. It happened faster than we actually thought. But I think through that process, we learned a lot about each other. We learned a lot about our culture. And we
Mm.
really leaned on our core values.
Can you talk a little bit about what happened during the pandemic? So losing 90% of your business, because a lot of organizations, business leaders are constantly thinking through what if scenarios, tragedies, whether it's environmental, whether it's natural disaster. I mean, who knows? There are lots of tragedies that can happen. But even in those situations, losing 90% of your business, I can't think of a time when that has happened before for an organization. So do you remember where you were when you realized that that was going to happen? What impact did it have? What did you do? Did you lay everybody off, close all your properties? Like how do you game out that kind of a scenario and situation where one day you wake up and somebody says, "Hey, you got to shut everything down"?
Well, I think for us, it happened pretty quick, but we did see some signs given our footprint. We're in 143 countries. We could start to see what was happening on the other side of the world. So we could see
Okay.
what's happening in China. I happened to be in Europe the day that the first cases happened in Italy. I think at that point in time, we realized that this was going to be a global pandemic, and we needed to start thinking what we were going to do. Um, I think as far as like, first off, like you never scenario plan for that particular situation. But I do think one of the things that we wanted to do first, and what led to that video that you referenced with Arnie, is that we wanted to help our associates be part of this journey and understand sort of where we're at. We didn't want to hide behind any kind of press or anything else. We wanted to talk directly to our associates. And so we did. And so it started with, that video. Then we started looking at, how can we best help our associates? We knew we were not going to be able to keep everyone employed when there's no one coming through the doors of the hotel. But it was very important to us that we helped them with their medical benefits and really, look for ways to do whatever we could. So one of the things you referenced, a lot of great companies like Yum and Walmart, Home Depot, et cetera. We reached out to our partners that were really going to have a little bit of a different story. Retail, home improvement, a lot of those things were actually on an uptick. And so we partnered with them, building a portal so that our associates could post for their jobs. They were given preference, for interviews and getting a seat at the table to, pitch themselves for different opportunities. So we were able to place a lot of associates with our employees. Our partners stepped up. So whether that's Deloitte, Accenture, they were helping out other companies. We had our call centers lean in to help the government. We really tried to be creative as a team to do whatever we could for our associates. We did have to furlough a number of associates. And as soon as business came back, we quickly started rehiring. But, during that period of time where the hotels were shuttered. We did everything we could to help align them with opportunities with other employers.
Yeah, it's a tough thing to have to try to go through. And then how did you, so obviously you furloughed a lot of employees. How many employees did you have to furlough? How many did you keep? I mean, was this like 50% of the workforce, 60%?
It ranged from geography to geography. Like every sort of part of the world was experiencing the pandemic at a somewhat of a different pace. There were
Yeah.
some areas where travel honestly sped up a bit. There were other areas where it
Mm.
really shut down. And so I think
Yeah.
that number kind of bounced around, but a relatively high percentage for a short duration of time. Um, but it was very sporadic. Even in the United States, what Florida looked like was very different than New York, which was different than California. So it kind of bounced around geography to geography and definitely country to country.
Okay. And then, so what did you learn from that? I mean, have you changed the way that you think about strategic planning, the way that you model out scenarios in the future, the way that you have conversations with your leadership team, the way that you, I don't know, pay attention to signals for various things on the horizon? Has that changed at all how you think about strategic planning and development?
Yeah, I mean, look, I think it changed. You know, living through that period of time. Our CEO Tony and myself like went around. We did basically a world tour, and wherever we could land and wherever we could get to, we tried to get to. And it was different all over the world, but it was. There's nothing worse than walking a hotel that's been closed. And I think one of the things that really hit us is that a hotel is just a building unless you have people in it.
Yep.
And so the importance of people to what we are, you know, we pride ourselves in helping lead sort of hospitality. Really hard to do that without people. And so I think, coming back from those trips, one of the things that really started to resonate is that we needed to really reboot our strategy a bit. I think at that point in time, as we were meeting with our executive committees, our owners, our GMs, a lot of the team was referencing what they had. And how do I get that back? How do I get my team size back? How do I get business back? And we also knew like it wasn't going to be exactly the same moving forward.
Yep.
And it really launched into what we call our growing forward strategy. We wanted the organization to look forward, not so much what you had, but what do we need? What do we need to win in the future? What do our associates need? The workforce really changed. I think a lot of things were going to play out. It would have just taken a little bit longer. So think hybrid work. Um, our data in 2018 said that was a thing. Our data in
Mm.
2016 said it was a thing. It just never really had the platform to launch into what it ultimately did. And sort of in a post-pandemic environment, we had to think about what our associates need differently. And so as we've shaped our company strategy, as we've launched our HR strategy, we've really made it about our people. And so from an HR standpoint, it's growing great leaders, it's investing in associates, and it's providing access to opportunity. And we really started with that leadership double click because at the end of the day, it all comes down to leadership. And we didn't want to make leadership a title or your level in the company. Leadership can occur at all levels. It's not a title, it's not a pay grade. If others are willing to follow you, you're a leader. And we really
Yeah.
wanted to motivate the organization to rally back through leadership. We also
Mm.
knew people, you know, had been hurt. There was a lot going on at that point in time, and we really wanted to be all about our core values and truly invest in our associates. So yes, that was things around compensation, but it was also enriching our 401k, launching a stock purchase program, um, really taking the time to make sure we were really listening to what people were struggling with. And we took a platform we had that was called Take Care. It was really about physical well-being, and we expanded that to be about your physical, your financial, and your mental well-being.
Yeah. I know
We
that was a
really
big trend for a
provided
lot of companies.
tools and resources to our associates to grab off the shelf, ways to arm our leadership with ways of talking and really helping. And then this access to opportunity, one of the things that, we get the privilege of interacting with Mr. Marriott at our board meetings, and time to time he will come to this building. But one of the things he's always said that motivates so many of us is that what he's most proud of is the opportunities that the company's created for so many. And we really made that part of the strategy. Like, how are we cross-pollinating talent? How are we giving them the opportunities? How are we, reshaping and launching our associate resource groups and really helping our associates be themselves? You know,
Yeah.
we want
Mm.
you to be you at Marriott.
You mentioned the idea of data, and you said several times what our data showed us in 2016 and what our data showed us in 2018. I'm curious as far as data that you collect internally and what that looks like as far as analytics, AI. What are you able to see and calculate and figure out internally on your workforce now? I know there's probably a lot you have on the
Yeah.
customer side, but specifically on your employees, what's been that evolution And I'm particularly curious because I have a new book on employee experience, which will be coming out in January/February of next year. And one of the laws that I have in there of these 8 laws is the idea of knowing your people.
Yeah.
And knowing your people, not just as far as insights that you collect from technology, but also on kind of the human level. So maybe we can break that apart kind of on the human level. What do leaders, just on a human interaction level, know or need to know about their people? And what are you actually collecting and piecing together on the technology AI side?
Yeah. So I think on the just data in general, I mean, one of the things we try to lead with data wherever we can. Um,
Okay.
and being smart about that. I mean, there's things that we're going to be able to collect from a survey, and that's going to tell us a portion of what's going on, and then making sure that we're following up and having direct conversations and really listening. So some of the things that we've changed over the last handful of years, we used to do an annual survey.
Okay.
We now do more of a pulse. So it's a little bit all time listening. Like there are opportunities to sort of share your opinion throughout the year, and then is from an organization standpoint, we can take and act on things in the moment. We can also double click. So whether it's getting a verbatim, whether it's actually going and meeting with a group and saying, "Hey, we're hearing this is resonating. How do we help do more?" Or, "Hey, we're hearing there's a bit of a challenge here. Please tell us a bit of the details of what we can do to really unlock some of this opportunity." And so I think this idea of like using the data as a marker, as sort of an opportunity to dig a little bit deeper, but never just sitting back and saying, "Well, the data's this, we're fine."
Mm,
I think it's got to be both. I think this in-person interaction and really hearing the feedback is important for all involved. It's important for your associates to have a voice. It's also important to show that leadership listens. Um,
yeah.
but I think this all-in listening and really having the opportunity for people to provide their input throughout the year is definitely something that we've been doing. I think also we try to take and I live two lives. I'm in HR, but also work in global ops.
Yeah,
But
I was going to ask you about that too.
yeah, always looking at sort of what are our associates saying, what are our customers saying, and then how does that ultimately impact our business, and never
Yeah.
sort of separating those things. One of our you know grounding philosophies is if you take care of your people, they'll take care of the guests, and the guests will keep coming back. And so
Yep.
we look at that and reinforce that with our data. If our associates are really engaged, turnover is likely going to be low. They're also going to provide a better customer experience, so our intent to recommend will go up. On top of that, if we're really doing all those things really well, it's going to increase the margin to our owners. So their business is going to perform better. And so we really try to take the data and look at it and talk about it holistically. I think one of the areas that we're trying to do a better job in is not just comparing ourselves to ourselves. So with
Mm,
associate engagement, it's great that we improve year over year, but I'm way more interested in looking at how we stack up against the best in the business. I
yeah.
think on the
Mm,
customer side, we want to look at NPS and see how we're stacking up against other companies. It's always
yep.
important to improve year over year, but that's only one piece of information. So this holistic loop of data is something that we're really focused on.
What data are you actually looking at? And can you give people a sense of just how much data there is today? And are you using AI? Are you using ChatGPT to analyze? Like one company that I interviewed not that long ago for the book said that they had to spend 3, almost 4 years kind of cleaning up their data before they were able to make sense of it and really plug it into AI. So, from your perspective, when you're looking to make people decisions, how much data do you have? What are you able to, I don't know, predict or pinpoint? What insights are you able to get from it?
So we first off, like we've been on this journey for quite some time. So we have cleaned up our data, which absolutely is the first step. Like
How long did that take you?
oh, I, years.
It
Um,
did, yeah.
and I think it's one of those things where one, you may not even realize all the data that you have. So there's that element of it that making sure that the enterprise is working together across disciplines to
Yep.
triangulate the data, put things together, clean it up so it
And
makes sense.
where does all the data sit? Because some people listening to this might be thinking like, Ty, what do you just have like data in spreadsheets? So this is all data on all of your employees. It's just sitting in various human resource systems, whether it's a Workday or an Oracle or ServiceNow, just data about everyone that sits there. And we're talking about like name, job title, description, skills, geography, just a bunch of stuff like that. Um, so when you say clean it up, what are we talking about when we say clean it up?
So I think one is making sure, like, first off, we want to make sure we're collecting the data that we should have access to. So we're always
Okay.
very compliant on that front and making sure that those feeds are correct from our vendors. A lot of our data is in the cloud, so we have moved and migrated to the cloud. We use Oracle for a lot of our HCM data. Um, but cleaning up the data, making sure that we can actually put the data together. There's a lot of different sources of data. We're a big company. Like I said, we're in 143 countries, so data can come in a lot of different ways. So, one, trying to really clean up and consolidate how we're capturing the data. So, finding
Okay.
more common tools. Once that data kind of comes in, making sure that we can really use the data. So, what formats it in? How does this tie to this other piece of data? We have a global analytics team that where all the data starts to get consolidated. And then
Okay. So they're kind of like it's like in Willy Wonka, like the chocolate factory. That's the chocolate factory, and all the chocolate comes there,
I've
and then
never
they make
thought
it
about it
into.
as Willy Wonka, but yeah, I guess we do try to pull it all together and then make it make sense. But we also have subject matter experts in each of the disciplines that are more surgeons or specialists in their area that are really helping fine tune and pull out information and insights that are going to be important to the strategies that we lay forward.
Okay. All right. So let's unpack a little bit about what some of that data is. And is any of it new data, or is this just stuff that companies have? For example, we talked about some of the basic demographic data. We're also talking about engagement surveys, performance data. I don't know, what else do you throw in there?
I mean, we look at what are your interests? Like maybe someone's really interested in pursuing an opportunity in finance. We
Okay.
wanna have that information, and maybe we're helping match them with certain opportunities as they arise.
Okay.
Like
And this is all in like a profile they have of
yeah,
themselves,
we encourage our associates to go in, you know, every 6 months, once a year, really
like a
update.
LinkedIn internal.
Yeah, maybe you want to, relocate to Europe. Um, and that wasn't in your profile last year, but now it is because, maybe you have a sibling or a child that's going to school in Europe. I'd love to work there for the next few years. Putting that in your profile will help us make better talent decisions. Uh,
Okay.
Information on, what you're curious about. So we look at a lot of your learning. So you have
Hmm.
required learning, but we also look at what are people exploring. So, right now, we just launched Copilot earlier this year to all of our office associates, so headquarters, continents, etc. There was a big spike in people tapping into the learning that we were offering on our digital learning zone. And so we can see like where they're spending their time, what they're interested in, what learning is really resonating, and what is a quick click through. What are the searches that they're making so that we can actually populate maybe and point them in the right direction on something they want to learn about? And a lot of this was discovered during COVID. We turned on
Hmm.
our learning system to the world. So one of the things we wanted to do is we had all this content and we just let anyone and everyone participate and take advantage of a lot of the modules and things. And we learned a lot about not only others but our associates and what they were really interested in, and honestly, how curious people are.
Hmm.
So you may be in a certain discipline, but you're spending a lot of time learning about tech. Well, because that's where things are going. And so those are interesting data points that we can help navigate and build, whether it's the jobs, the matches for
Yeah.
individuals as they pursue their careers.
So I do have a question on that, and then I wanted to follow up on the skills piece and see how you're using AI, because so it sounds like really what you've built is kind of an internal LinkedIn, for lack of a better word, just so people can
A
visualize
bit,
it, where you
yes.
kind of okay, where you can update things on there. And I'm assuming you have some form of AI that's constantly crawling it and matching and looking and seeing where the job opportunities are and where the vacancies are and who might be a good fit for that. Like, is that how it works? It's almost like this. I don't know, this AI recruiter and matchmaker that's constantly floating around?
There's elements of that. I mean, we still bring people in for interviews. We still are having conversations. We have humans that are aided with AI and how they're doing queries or looking for talent. Maybe we're in a search for a hard to fill job like an engineer at a hotel. Um, there's elements of AI that we're using to help discover that talent. I think
Okay.
there's elements of it that are helping us be better at how we're even asking interview questions. So digging a
Hmm.
little bit deeper, especially as you think about the ever evolving landscape of tech, the skills needed in tech are changing
Yeah.
so fast. We're helping tech help us better screen people for tech jobs. And
Mm.
so those are some of the ways we're using it. Most of our partners have embedded AI in some way, shape, or form into their products that we leverage. And then collectively across the organization, we're also looking at opportunities and testing things of how HR can help aid our associates in their roles and make us move faster.
Yeah. Hmm. Um, okay. So anything else that you want to talk about as far as the skills or kind of the AI or the talent piece internally, as far as how that works?
I think one of the things that we're seeing is really, individuals that are more curious. They're willing to be a bit more of that Swiss Army knife.
Mm.
They're not just sort of holding on to one thing or one discipline. They're very curious about learning left to right. We do think that those associates are going to have an advantage. So we're really encouraging our
Yep.
associate base to be curious, to be courageous, to be connected, ask others what they think, explore other opportunities, really trying to leverage not only our size, but really scale the organization as it relates to talent and have people that are willing and prepared to work left to right, but also courageous enough to catch the technology and fast track things. I do think it can be scary for some as they're looking at technology. We really want our associates to lean into it, to embrace it, to feel confident in how it's going to help. And it could help propel them to another opportunity, another role, but leaning into it as opposed to avoiding it or resisting it.
Yep. Couldn't agree more. On the learning side, one of the things that I'm seeing organizations diverge a little bit, and I'd be curious to hear where you stand on this, is, I mean, as you know, during post-pandemic, organizations around the world, we were investing very heavily in these learning and training platforms, right? Whether it's LinkedIn Learning, Coursera, Khan Academy. And more and more when I talk to CHROs and business leaders just like you, I'm noticing that there's a difference in how CHROs approach it. So one, for example, Vincent Lecerf, he's the CEO of a big company called Orange in France. And I asked him about learning and training, and I said, can an employee learn anything they want inside the company? And he says, no. He says, if they want to learn something inside of our organization, it needs to be tied to a particular business goal. And so if you are in sales, for example, and you want to learn how to play the guitar or how to cook or how to do something that's not related to what you're doing, or it's not related to a new role that you can move into, we're not going to fund it or support it or get behind it. However, if you say that you want to learn something or you want to move to another area, they do an analysis and they say, well, can we guarantee you a job there with the same salary? Is this an area that we see is going to grow inside the organization? And if so, yes, you can go ahead and do that and we'll fund it and we'll take care of that. And so Orange is one of the few companies where I think they take learning and training and development not necessarily more seriously, but it's more tied to business goals and objectives as opposed to we just want to create a culture of learning. And then there are other organizations that I talk to, and they give employees access to everything. And they say, yeah, that's fine if you're in sales and you want to learn about, I don't know, history or, who knows what. Yeah, learn whatever you want. We don't care. We're just, go for it.
Yep.
I'm curious to hear your thoughts on where you stand. Do you think the learning, as long as you're learning, is good, or should everything be tied back to a business goal, a business objective, and kind of a reason for doing it?
I think it's probably somewhere in between. And I say that because, one of the things that we try to engender with learning is helping people build confidence. And I think there are a lot of, you think about our business, 90% of our associates are frontline workers.
Yep.
Um, so we want to take and let them be whoever they want to be. And if they want to grow into management, they want to be an executive one day, we want to help engender that. And so I don't know that we have it so formulaic. One of the programs that we have launched is called Elevate. And so Elevate is a program, it's probably about 2 years old now. And we've had about 5,000 associates go through it. But the results of that are 1 in every 4 of our manager jobs are now filled by a non-management associate that's gone through that
Hmm.
program.
Okay.
And so this is an opportunity for someone to go from really the frontline, um, non-management role into management that could then propel them to be a GM of a hotel or to do a whole host of other things. And so I think as we look at learning, absolutely we want it to tie to our KPIs, but I also don't wanna limit it so much that individuals are not given that access to opportunity that's part of who we are as a company. And
Yeah.
so, we have 87% of our eligible workforce has a 401k. We have several millionaires that work for Marriott that are in non-management roles. um, because they've invested, they've had a leader that's helped them sort of think through and preparing for their future. We have countless general managers that started in the hourly ranks. And so for us, I think that learning is a key to a door that we don't want to necessarily deny people. But I do think we're strategic in how we're pulling through. So long before AI was really vogue and everyone was talking about it, we were starting to build these digital literacy trainings so that our associates would lean into it. We didn't know exactly where it was going to go, but we knew it was going to happen and we couldn't stop it. And so I think
Mm.
for us, a big part of that was, helping individuals get more confident in leveraging digital. Now,
Yep.
that's led to now they're thinking about AI. And we typically look through and not trying to change our associates. We want them to change with us. So when we're launching AI right now at our customer care centers and other aspects, we're starting with what's the block? Like, what's the opportunity in your role that if we could free up capacity, you would want us to tackle? And
Okay.
we pinpoint that area, we relieve it with the AI. It allows the associate to now lean into it harder because, wow, the company listened to what the pain point was. They did something about it. Please help me understand more. And so that's how we've been really thinking about rolling out technology, is how we're embracing and rolling out AI. Our goal is not to just automate everything we do today. Some of it
Yeah.
is there's things that we do today we probably don't need to do tomorrow. And then we need to automate the things that are important that are going to really help release our associates to focus on the things that humans are going to have the most impact. And in our business, there's countless opportunities to do that. The worst thing we can do is have someone check in at the hotel and spend the whole time looking down at the keypad, hacking away to get your room reservation. I would much rather say, "Hey, Jacob, welcome to our Marriott hotel. We've got an amazing room for you. Let me, show you to your room." And having that capacity and opportunity to really enrich your stay as opposed to it feeling more like a transaction.
Yeah. So focusing more on, and to your point, you have, I think you said 90% of your employees are frontline. So focusing on that experience, the eye contact, the friendliness, all that sort of stuff
Yeah,
is
absolutely.
to your point. I think it makes a huge difference. I was staying at a hotel. I was just in the Philippines, giving a talk there for a big mall company, and it was a Conrad hotel, which I don't know if it's associated with any of the. I think maybe it's an independent, or I don't know which property it
Part of
was.
another big brand, not us.
Yeah, no. It wasn't a Marriott, but what struck me was just culturally, and I don't think it was hotel specific. I think it was um, either culturally there or the company where they had a presence in all the hotels because it was a big event that they were hosting. And one of the things that was really amazing to me is when they would greet you, they would put their hand on their heart and they would say things like, thank you for coming. And it was really like you pay attention to that kind of
Yeah,
stuff.
absolutely.
right? Even when like there was somebody downstairs at the lobby, there's somebody greeting you by the elevators, and every single person is putting their hand on their heart and saying thank you. Everyone is smiling, and and you notice that. And I've also stayed at hotels, especially in the States, where you check in and people are just like, hey, like upstairs. And maybe it's a beautiful hotel, but you don't get that genuine sense of like warmth and welcome and that anybody really even cares that you're there. And it's crazy how such a small gesture like that, to your point of making eye contact and smiling, we have a great room for you. Thank you so much for being with us, makes such a big difference.
Look,
And
it's contagious.
oh, it's
We
huge.
we call it authentic hospitality. And so,
Yeah.
I have 2 young daughters. One of them just started high school, the other one started middle school, and we constantly talk about in our family the power of a smile. And so if
Yeah.
you're ever nervous, you just smile because it's contagious. Someone's gonna smile back, and you're gonna feel a little bit more confident to go talk to that person or engage. And so we want the same thing for our associates as they're welcoming guests. I have no idea what you experience right before you walk in that door, but once you walk in that threshold, I want you to feel the warm embrace of Marriott, that smile, that special gesture. It not only is gonna help you, it's gonna help our associates. They're gonna get a little pep in their step. They're gonna feel better about what they do. And I think that it's one of I love the industry that I get to work in. I think it's a ton of fun. And those little moments adding up all over the world, like, you can really help change a lot of things.
Yeah. I mean, even, if you stay at a Ritz Carlton, which is a Marriott property, right? I believe.
Yeah, yeah,
I've stayed at several of those, and you just feel the difference. We actually went on vacation fairly recently to Puerto Vallarta, and we didn't stay at a Marriott property, but it's two different hotels that had such different experiences. One was I think it was a Hyatt Dreams in Puerto Vallarta, and so we show up there. Nobody could give a damn that we're there, honestly. The AC doesn't work in the elevators. You show up, everyone's running around there, nobody's looking you in the eye. You could be there or not be there, they could care less. And we show up to this place, and my wife is kind of like, this is not going to be great for a family vacation. And like literally, we get to our room, and my wife is like, the service here is going to suck. We're getting out of this place. And right then and there, we look for another hotel. We're like panicking, last second, freaking out. And we end up going to, is it called Auberge or Auberge? You know what I'm talking about?
yeah, Bears.
Auberge. And so we drive an hour, we get there. And this is even before we see the property and we know how beautiful it is. There's somebody greeting us there when we get out of the car. Welcome home. We're so glad you're here. They knew our names. Totally different experience. And of course, it's a beautiful property there because it's a higher end hotel. But even before we saw the property, just the way that you are greeted and treated and how people look at you is different. And even though the other hotel that we were staying at wasn't as nice, the human experience could have been identical as far as how people greet you and make you feel welcome and know who you are. So it's really fascinating. The human element is becoming so much more crucial in a technology driven world.
I'm glad the first hotel was not one of ours. Um,
No, no, no.
um,
No, it is.
but
I
no,
wouldn't
look,
share that
I
circle.
think that, the people crave it, and I do think that's something that we've seen, this quest for experience, this thirst for, an authentic experience is real. We're
Yeah.
seeing people put their wallets there. We're seeing people want that more and more. And, one of the things that Mr. Marriott's always taught us is like success is in the details. All those details you mentioned, your sense of arrival, that warm welcome, the little touches, that's what makes the big impact.
Yep.
And you can't miss those small details. It's not
Yeah.
just having amazing room, it's not just an amazing property, it's all of those things interacting together is what brings to life that experience for your family and what makes we wanna make memories. We don't wanna just be a place for you to stay, we wanna have an impact.
Yep. And that experience could exist whether you're at a Ritz Carlton or whether you're at an extended stay America or whether you're at a Motel 6. the human element can be the same regardless if it's a cheap hotel or a fancy hotel.
Absolutely.
Uh, but for you, and this is kind of alluding to something you touched on earlier, that you are both the CHRO and you're running global operations. And so, kind of two parallel perspectives I'm curious to get your thoughts on. One is, how do you balance technology and scale and efficiency and productivity with the human side and create personalized experiences? And the second kind of dichotomy for you is, how do you focus on people as the CHRO while also focusing on the operations, which sometimes can mean cutting costs and being more efficient and being productive and trying to get more out of people. So it's kind of like the human side, we want you to feel taken care of, but do more and work harder and be more efficient. And then there's kind of the human and the tech side. So can you address those, what most people would assume are opposite sides of the coin?
Yeah, I think there's a lot more synergies there than maybe at first sort of blush, but one, operations is fueled by people. And so, as we think about whether it's tech people, we want tech enabled but human centered execution. So as we think about, the people side and the operations side, like they do live somewhat together. We've got to motivate the workforce to make sure they're leaning into things like technology in service of the guest so that those guests come back again and we have a profitable structure for our owners. And so, yes, we do have to balance those two things, but I think how we try to think about it is that we really want to care for today and prepare for tomorrow. And
Mm,
so I want to do everything we can to help our associates. That doesn't mean just keeping their jobs static. That doesn't mean we're not investing in them. We want to constantly have this ever evolving sort of drive for our associates and where we want to go. And we want our associates to understand like how we win collectively as a company. And so we talk openly about EBITDA. We talk about intent
mm,
to recommend. We talk about leadership index. We talk about net present value and how growing rooms helps fuel opportunities and create new jobs. So we try to take all of the things instead of talking about them in isolation, activate them in a way that whether you're, you know, a housekeeper at our hotel, you're a steward, you're a GM, or you're an executive, you're focused on how do we collectively help the organization perform better so the organization can continue to fuel opportunities for yourself and so many others. And so it's one of the things that I think has always made Marriott special. Like whenever I go to a property or whenever I talk to one of our associates and I ask them, what do you do? They answer, I work for Marriott. They don't answer with I'm a general manager, I'm an EVP, I'm a housekeeper. They say I work for Marriott, and I think that's something special
mm.
that we have, and I think that occurs because we're very transparent in helping them understand this enterprise mindset, really thinking about the whole company. Yes, we may need to cut costs here, which is gonna generate opportunity there, and we want you to be a part of it. We want you to bring your idea. I mean, a lot of the amazing work that we've been able to do has been fueled by opportunities and ideas from our frontline staff. They know their
Mm.
business and what they do better than anyone else. And so helping them have a voice, share with us how we do things better, helps us operate the hotels better, helps us develop people better. So I do run the two disciplines separately, but I do see a lot of synergies because of that human connection that spreads across both.
And what about balancing the humanity and technology at work? Right, the scale, the efficiency, the productivity. Maybe having robots one day at Marriott properties that walk you to your room, but also having the human component. How does that play?
So I think, look, I think it's we're on this journey. I don't know exactly how all things play out. I want us leaning into this space. So what I wouldn't want is humans doing things that robots could do, and I don't want robots doing things that humans are better at doing. So that guest interface, like people want you smiling at them, not necessarily a robot. I want to free up that capacity that you're not hacking on a keyboard. Let something else do that so that you can step out in front of that desk and really give, Jacob and family that warm welcome that we want and really get to know you Hey, what are you here for? Are you celebrating anything special? Is there anything I can do for you? Is there a restaurant that you'd like to explore, whether on property or off property? Hey, are you headed to this theme park or what have you? Like, those are the things that are going to really help you want to come back to one of our brands and one of our properties. Not, I was very efficient at typing in your name and getting your key. You're not going to remember that. And so I think as we're thinking about technology and how it shifts the work, we really want the AI to play a place where it matters and give the
Mm.
capacity and the opportunity for our associates to really have that authentic hospitality impact that we're really proud of and we want to continue to deliver.
I know we only have 10 or 12 minutes here, so two, maybe three questions for you. One is around driving change in such a massive organization. So, whether it's change around AI, whether it's change around culture, how do you do it for such a large organization? Because even a lot of people listening to this are probably working at companies much smaller than yours, maybe thousands of employees, 5,000, 20,000, even 800,000 employees. You want to drive some kind of change. What's the secret to making it happen? And do you find that is it hard to make it happen at such a big company?
Look, I don't want to pretend that we have everything figured out. I think one of the things that uh, we do well as a company is that we really separate and recognize there's a difference between alignment and agreement. I think a
Hmm.
lot of companies and I think a lot of teams can get hung up on trying to get everyone to agree.
Yeah, maybe you can unpack those two things because that's
Yeah,
an
so
interesting
look,
point.
I think a misnomer is that you're going to get everyone to agree. And
Yep.
personally, if everyone's agreeing, probably two things are happening. One, you're not pushing hard enough, so it's too easy to agree. Or secondly, like people are just not willing to push the other way and resist it. Whereas if you're striving to get alignment, that's where I'm willing to take that bet. It may not be exactly how I think it should be, but I'm willing to give it a shot. And you know what? We're willing. If it doesn't quite work, we're going to alter it. We're going to change it. It doesn't have to be perfect, but we want to get moving and we want to learn so that we can ultimately get it to scale across the organization. So I think a lot of times you can get frozen by trying to get everyone to agree and
Yeah.
instead get everyone to alignment. So I think that's one piece of the equation. I think the other is like we really try and we learn every day, but I think especially as new generations are entering the workforce, you've got to get leadership aligned and helping sort of push and pull, but you've got to activate the broader base of the organization. A bit of this sort of change acceleration sandwich. It can't just happen because leadership says so. Associates and the base have to also understand and want to fuel it and push it. And so I think companies that really have that connectivity across all of their associates and can activate at the top and the bottom and push those things together, they're going to accelerate change a lot faster. I don't call it change management. I call it change acceleration because I don't want to manage the change. I want to accelerate. If we believe it's something we want to do, the more that we can get everyone all in, the better it's going to be because we're going to learn faster, we're going to correct any mistakes, and we're going to be able to ultimately take what is size and make it scale.
Yeah.
And so those are two of the things. And we have an amazing team. Like I think people, like I said, they say I work for Marriott. They want us to do a good job. They want to do a good job. We have very few people talk about I. We have very much a we culture, and we know that if we all lean in, that we will win. And that's sort of something that fuels our ability to accelerate change.
Do you ever have contentious debates or arguments with either your leadership team or other members on your team? Guys, I think those things are actually healthy. To your
Every
point, where
day.
people disagree and you debate and you're not like personal attacks. Like, you're stupid, but let's.
No, I don't
I
think
don't agree with you. Here's why.
look, I think if you're not having debate back to that agreement piece, you're not pushing hard enough. I think a lot of times, one of the things that I think we do a good job is we try to leave it in the room. Let's have the debate. Let's throw it out on the table. If there's counter views, let's have them. When we walk out of the room, we need to be aligned. And I think
Yeah.
that's something that, Tony and the entire SLT has really done a good job of, like, put it on the table. That doesn't mean, like, everyone's sort of want and desire is gonna actually manifest itself into something we do. Doesn't mean that everything we do is gonna be exactly how everyone would want it, but we're aligned as a team to give it a shot. And then also big enough and courageous enough to know if we don't get it right, we'll fix it.
Yep.
So I
Yep.
I think we do a good job in that space, and I honestly would say even at times where there may not be a debate, we'll sometimes take on roles of just countering it for sport, just to make sure what we're doing, we've thought about from multiple angles, and we're not just
Yeah.
getting caught in rationalizing what we've always done. Like, why is not enough? You gotta ask why not.
Yeah. Yeah. I like that. And maybe one more question for you. So I run a CHRO group called the Future of Work Leaders, and we have, I think, 30 CHROs in there. And one of the conversations that comes up a lot is around key capabilities for the future workforce. What are different CHROs training? What are they focusing on? What's coming next? What's not coming next? What's hype? How are you thinking about the future workforce? Are there any particular skills, mindsets, things that you are focusing on? And how did you develop those? Did you take a future snapshot or scenario of Marriott in the next 5 to 10 years and you kind of like backcast from there? Or how do you plan for a future that doesn't exist?
I mean, look, I think you have to be a bit agile. I mean, I can look as far as I can into the future, and I'm pretty sure I'm not gonna get everything right. What I do know is that change is only accelerating. So we wanna prepare our workforce to embrace change, and change being a constant. It's not an event, it's not a project, it's not an initiative, it's a mindset. And so constantly looking for ways to really think left to right across the organization, um, really bringing in outside perspective and infusing that with some of our inside experience. Um, but as far as like, having a 5-year plan, I mean, look, yes, that is a thing. I think you've got a plan for that, but really make sure that you're agile in the moment, that you can pivot and you can shift. Your core values and elements of that, they need to be rock solid and sturdy.
Yeah.
But the culture needs to constantly evolve. How business happens and what makes sense and what adjacencies, like, you have to be a bit more agile. And then you've got to take to your earlier conversation, like, what's the data telling us? Maybe more importantly, what's the data not telling us? And so I think building a workforce that is more curious, that's courageous to take risks, that believes that in a we concept as opposed to an I, those are the workers, those are the companies that are gonna, really perform. I think those
Yeah.
companies that are thinking and just comparing themselves to themselves, that they're rationalizing as opposed to rallying about the future, or they think they can just do it themselves, I think they're gonna lose.
Yeah, and the 5-year plan, to your point, it's pretty hard to make a 5-year plan in today's world, right? 5 years ago, there was no Chat GPT or Claude or Copilot or anything like that. So it seems like maybe instead of a 5-year plan, it's almost like a 5-year vision, a 5-year wish of where we as a company can be, and try to kind of work back from that.
Yeah.
And do you do any kind of like scenario planning and thinking in terms of different possibilities and outcomes that might emerge?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, we look at, what are ways and unlocks that we can have across the organization to accelerate growth.
Okay.
We run scenarios on, what if this geopolitical event occurs? How does that impact
Ah,
us?
interesting.
Um, we try, look, the best way to manage things that are unpredictable is to be as proactive as possible.
Yeah.
So it doesn't mean all of our scenarios are going to nail it, but we're going to build the muscle that these are the questions I need to ask. These are the tools and resources I have right on the shelf that I can activate. The more that you can prepare, the more you're going to be better at reacting. And
Mm.
so I think that's how we think about scenario planning. It's not so much I've got this perfect scenario and let me tell you about this linear process to get there. Said no one in
Yeah, that never happens.
it's just that's gone. But I do think this idea of having a vision of what we ultimately want to be and what our aspirations are, and knowing that that journey is going to be somewhat of a zig and a zag, and that wherever we can and hone the things that are in our control so that we can better capture and take advantage of the things that are out of our control, we think we'll be set up for success.
I love that. I think that's a great way to wrap up. Ty, where can people go to learn more about you, Marriott? I know you're active on LinkedIn. Anything that you want to mention for people to check out? Are you hiring by any chance?
No, absolutely. Look, go to Marriott.com. We have jobs posted all the time. We hire 150 to 200,000 people a year. I'd
Wow.
welcome you to look at our jobs and opportunities. I do respond to my LinkedIn. I'm happy to chat, help in any way, share whatever we're doing at Marriott that may help you or your business or your career. So let us know how we can help.
That's crazy. So you actually respond to the LinkedIn messages, huh?
I do respond to them.
All right, we're going to see how many LinkedIn messages you get after this. People are going to start flooding you and bombarding you.
All right, let's see what happens.
Uh, Ty, thank you so much for joining me. I really appreciate it. Taking time out of your busy schedule. I know how busy you are. And thanks everybody for tuning in. My guest again, Ty Breland. You can find him on LinkedIn. You can Google him, get all sorts of info about him. And again, he's the CHRO and EVP Global Operations Services at Marriott International. I will see all of you next week. And Ty, thank you.
Yeah, thank you, Jacob. Appreciate it.
Thanks for tuning in to today's episode of Future Ready Leadership. If you want to get access to more content on how you can become future ready, make sure to subscribe to the newsletter. It's thefutureorganization.com/newsletter. And if you enjoyed this episode, please send it to somebody who you would like to see become a better leader. Thanks for listening or watching, and I will see you next time.